Hello, my friends who facilitate small groups, you small group leaders and the such. Super good to be back with you. We have restarted or basically reconnected with our Matthew study, and you have new materials. And it should have the front is actually slightly green. It doesn't look very green right now, but it's a little different. The other one was blue. This is a dark green, and this is part 2, book 1, and it has to do, the part 2 is A Kingdom Come, and it all comes from that beginning where we're beginning with the Lord's Prayer, and it's, His will be done, right? His kingdom come. So I'm going to jump right in. Again, just to remind you, maybe some of you are newer, we have the verse typically in here, the introduction, which is just designed to launch you into the text that's to be read out loud. I would suggest also the verse, take turns or someone read the verse out loud. I think it's really important for us to be reading the Bible together out loud, and it's very helpful. And then the questions will go into, the text and maybe some application for now in the sense of like, how do you see things? And how does that transition into the current contemporary environment? And then gospel motivation is the way it ends. And typically it's something where I'm trying to remind you of how the gospel has an implication in this particular topic or whatever. And usually there's something asked of you in that, like what can you do this week that would actually help you live out that gospel, the implications of the gospel have impacted you in such a way that you would actually live differently. Okay, so jumping into the first chapter of part 2, we are in the section on the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, 5 through 18. First question is, are you good at communicating your struggles, your hopes, and the like? Why not? Icebreaker. I have an icebreaker type question, sometimes 2, that kind of just gets you guys dialoguing about maybe yourselves and how you deal with things. In this particular case, is like, are you a good communicator? Are you someone who struggles with communication? Are you someone who stays quiet most of the time? And what impacts does that have? Like, how do you believe you got that way? And how does that make some things easier, some things harder, and so forth? It's a good place to start. Number 2, what is your typical goal for prayer in your life? Are there situations that precipitate more prayer than others? Why not? Part of me feels like, at least looking at my own life and just knowing how we in the Western world are so busy, I find oftentimes we approach prayer when it's needed, right? Something horrible happens and you're like, oh man, I should probably reach out to God now. And what I'm trying to suggest to myself and to you to your group is that prayer is designed to be more of a continual communing with God. And there are times when, I'm not saying it's wrong to pray, like if you have someone who's sick and you might pray more in those times, like someone close to you, if someone is wayward, whatever, yeah, you might pray more. But part of this, the idea is like, well, maybe we should be praying more in between those moments as well. Part of that, I think, it sets us up with a trust for God. It definitely honors God. It gives him glory where glory is due. And part of it is just spending time with the one we can call Abba because of Jesus. So I think prayer is something we need to reinvigorate in our lives, and what better time than now, at least if you're watching this video now at the beginning of 2022. Okay, question number 3. What makes you uncomfortable about prayer? This is an opportunity as a facilitator to really push on people that maybe they've communicated to you already that they have a hard time with prayer or whatever. Let's get it all out in the open. What makes us uncomfortable? Some of it might be someone didn't have a good father, so when they go to pray to God the Father, it feels like a stranger or things like that. Be super open and honest, maybe about some of your own challenges as you have approached prayer historically or even now. Like, here are some of the things I run into. This is just an opportunity to talk about the difficulty of prayer. Sometimes maybe some people see the weirdness of prayer, whatever it is. But we know when we read through the Bible, prayer is critical. Jesus prays a lot. There are a lot of things that are going on where people are speaking to God about, crying out to God about, and we should be doing the same. Question number 4. When you read, "Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven," what do you think about? How much of this petition is about external things, and how much about you and how you live? Give specific examples if you can. One of the things that we will always do here, and I think I do a lot, is to challenge our own individuality in the sense of our culture teaches us to be good individuals. And while I think the Bible is actually trying to teach us to be a kingdom, a connected group of individuals. And I I think this gets to the heart of it, is when you are praying, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, what do you actually think? Like, what are the things that come to mind? Because I honestly think that's part of the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is a model. It's not like this is the thing, this is the only way you can pray. It's simply, in fact, Jesus says, when you pray, pray like this, like this. And I think the point is there's some general themes in there that should bring our mind to what's happening right now. Maybe it's something in the governmental realm or politics. Maybe it is in the world, and maybe there's conflict. Maybe it's in your household and so forth. But how much of it is, Lord, yet you let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, with me, with my stuff, with my thinking, with how my heart operates, how I actually go about my life. How much of it is in that area? So this just gives you an idea to talk about, like, what is it you think about? Because in reality, it should include all of that. But I think oftentimes we're praying for the things outside of us. Yeah, Father, heal this person, fix this government. Are we saying, fix me? I know you're not done with me yet. Help me see the things that need to change in my life. Okay? Question number 5. For those of us in the Western world where self-sufficiency is heralded as a virtue, what does it mean for us to pray for daily bread? This is more of a recognize we're in a different culture, and I don't think many of us are necessarily living day to day with what food we're going to have on the table, but a lot of the world still does. And there is a check that needs to come into us on, like, are we relying on God? Right? Are we relying on his provision? Are we thankful for his provision and those type of things? It might be good to talk about daily bread. I mean, because I think, again, Isaac spoke about this in the sermon. It's like some people, there was a whole series or a whole, it originally was a series of tracts, I think, called Daily Bread, and it was about the Bible, and that's all good and everything, but the reality is most likely, this is talking about truly provision. Like, what am I going to eat today? And we don't really struggle as much with that. I mean, I'm sure there are some of us, maybe some of you who are listening, that you are. By the way, if you are struggling with what's getting on your table every day, you should call us, because we can probably help you. So know that if anyone in your group has those kind of issues, please reach out. We have alms. We have the ability to help people out. Food should not be a problem when it comes to kingdom people. Yet a lot of the world is still struggling. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, question number 6. Read Matthew 18:21 through 35. The prayer, meaning the Lord's Prayer, not only asks for forgiveness, but assumes we have forgiven. Are you someone who forgives easily? Why not? So the Matthew chapter 18 section is about when Peter says, how many times must I forgive? I think it's Peter. Anyway, it has to do with it, where Jesus says 70 times 7, and then he goes into this story about forgiving debt, and it's super powerful. And I think the whole point is that, like, I think sometimes we should check, well, how good are we at forgiving? Because literally the very model that Jesus just gave us says we have forgiven. In reality, that looks like a perfect tense, but in the Greek, it's an aorist, which is a past tense. But I think we probably have done that in the English, either because it's something Greek that is way above my head, or it's easier in English to say we have forgiven rather than we forgave. But nonetheless, the point is, it is past and done. So it's funny, I stumble on that one sometimes. I feel like, as I'm praying this, is there someone that I haven't? Because this is saying that I have, and I don't want to be a liar. So it's one of those moments to take a look and see, well, how good are we forgiving? Are there people that are holding on to hurts? And again, please know that we understand that there are some horrible hurts that many of you have gone through. You need to understand that when you go to your small group and then consider these questions. We can't be just frivolous in how we speak of these things, because there's some powerful things that have happened to people that have been bad, and forgiveness is hard, but forgiveness is still commanded. So it's walking with people through those understandings of forgiveness. What's the things that block us from forgiving, and so forth. Question number 7. How is the prayer speaking to here and now, and how does it speak to the future? So I just want you to look at those ideas, right? So it's almost like when I'm praying this, there's something about today and what is talking about kind of today forward. It's more of a kind of find it and then discuss it. Question number 8, have you ever fasted? What prompted it? So the second part of this scripture is talking about fasting. We didn't really do much with this in the sermon. We talked a little bit about it before break. But the key is like, so what do you fast for? Like, what are the things what prompts fasts and so forth? And then the next question is kind of built into or connected with it. So that's question number 9. It says, fasting was built into the weekly rhythm of early Christians. Why do you think it is not practiced as much now? What would be a step toward renewing it? If you read old literature, it talks about in the Christian life, they would fast once a week all the time. And that was just built into the rhythm. And I don't think we do it as much, unless it's for other reasons. So fasting has been a part of our Western culture in the sense of, intermittent fasting has come in. There's all kinds of dietary fasting that happens. But do we fast for the right reasons? And I'd say, generally speaking, when you look at the Bible, there's 2 primary reasons that I think are connected and for fasting. And one is just simply, it's stating your reliance on God and you're mourning something oftentimes. That's literally, and it could be mourning something that's going on that you don't know what the result is. So for example, fasting because, I don't know, what would be it, like, oh, you're going to get you're going to try to get a new job and you decide to fast, not because the fast is going to somehow rattle God's cage to get you that job, but you're showing I am reliant on you for my very sustenance. I'm going to stop eating and drinking for a period of time because I want to show my respect and my honor to God, that I rely on Him and Him alone for life. And in a way, you may be worried, so I guess mourning's not really worry, but you have those things connected there. I think oftentimes biblically, it's talking about just, I am putting my reliance, I'm reminding myself, and in a move to show God that they did it in the Bible, so I'm going to do it. And it is just showing that God, I'm reliant on you for everything that I have. Okay, gospel motivation. So this talks about the model. And I think the thing I'm trying to get to here is the hour and the several us's in the Lord's Prayer is super important because our prayer should be a communal effort in many ways. And I'm not saying don't pray on your own. That's not what I'm saying at all. My point is that prayer that Jesus in this very prayer is using plural, like the us and our terms, for a purpose. And that's that we come to God collectively as his kingdom, his people of his kingdom, citizens of his kingdom, we come together. Are you praying with other people? Maybe there's someone who doesn't know this prayer that you could be teaching, those type of things. So we need to get this back into our rhythm, back into our toolkit of reminding ourselves we should be setting aside time to pray. Isaac mentioned today that he's challenging us to pray 3 times a day, like they did in the ancient world, right? Both Jews and Christians. Christians carried some of the practices of Judaism, and they pray 3 times a day: morning, midday, and evening. And it's a super good practice. It's a good rhythm. And all we're asking is just do the Lord's Prayer. It takes a few seconds, but think through it. Honor God, glorify Him in it. So anyway, this is one of those things. Maybe you can find a prayer partner. Maybe you can find someone to fast with this year, but make it for a purpose, a God-honoring purpose. Show God your reliance on Him, because you are ultimately, for your very next breath, for your very next heartbeat, that is all on God. Okay? So that is it. I pray that God's Spirit goes with you this week as you go through this wonderful prayer. I pray that we all take it and mold our lives with how we actually pray to our King each and every day. I will see you guys next week.